Welcome to Innovating Clinical Trials, the podcast designed for clinical research professionals eager to deepen their understanding of clinical trials through concise, insightful segments. Join your hosts, Liam Eves and Ted Trafford, as they uncover the core issues in clinical research, reflect on the industry, and challenge conventional wisdom.
Hello, sir. How are we?
I'm good. How are you, Liam?
I'm very good. Very good. It's I've been playing a bit more golf, Ted. Yeah, but in the now, because it's getting cold and damp here, it's indoor golf at the golf simulator.
Okay.
It's a bit it's a bit nasty over in the UK. But yeah, absolutely. I only started a couple of months ago actually, and just absolutely loving it. Just being outside and a bit of fresh air, and it's wonderful.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
Start working a bit more.
Well, you know me, I love being outside. So any excuse. I don't get out enough. Too much time trapped behind my computer. But whenever I can.
Have you been out recently doing any photography or anything?
No, but I'm planning for a trip coming up. So
nice.
Really, really looking forward to it. Yeah, I haven't been out as much as I should. Actually, instead, I've been having photography gear for wildlife is actually perfect for sports.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I've been shooting some varsity basketball games. And
amazing.
So that's been a lot of fun and getting some great sports action shots. So I enjoy that quite a bit.
That's so good. Yeah, I guess there's a lot of parallels, isn't there?
It's just learning, with photography, it's all about the light.
Right.
And, wildlife, you've got light that's changing constantly, and you have to adapt for different lighting settings. But when you're in a gym, it's the same. And as long as you get your settings right, then you don't even have to think about that anymore. It's then focusing on the action and being able to capture, really dramatic shots and understanding the sport really helps with that. So you can anticipate, okay, this is what this individual is going to do and being ready for that. So it's a lot of fun.
That's so good. Well, on that note of like being able to anticipate the people aspect, is I wanted to sort of spend a little bit of time. I wanted to go through a little short story, and also to go through some aspects of people. Obviously, it's a massive passion of mine. Is the sort of like individual aspect of research, and so I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago now, and I was trying to it was actually a conference, nothing to do with research, and I was asked what I did, which is always a strange one. Like, I don't know about you, but like people ask what you're doing. It's like, okay, how do I describe this in such a way that it's going to connect? Because like, there's not many people you go, do clinical trials and go, oh, great, is that like drug development for such and such? It's like you've got to almost explain it.
Yeah.
So I, for whatever reasons, have always maybe got a bit of a English cheeky side to me. So I typically, my first response is I do drugs, which obviously sounds a little bit wrong. So it makes people stop and think, which is nice. What do you mean you do? So it's you go from the pleasantries of, oh, how are you? What do you do? To what? Which sort of like puts the handbrakes on, I guess. It obviously sounds wrong, but like, so I go through this idea of like drug development, and I was thinking about like, how do I answer this question at this particular conference? And as an operator within the clinical trials business, I realized that I'm working on developing new medicines as part of the process, but I'm actually more in the people business.
Yeah.
And my job, again, as an operator is to build relationships, and be that with colleagues or partners or patients, it really doesn't matter. And I think that, what we share and how we share it, particularly with patients, and sites, has a direct impact on how engaged patients and sites will be. So one of the stories that I was like, as I was sort of thinking about this and reflecting, is that when I went back to the very start of my career, I was working directly with patients, and we were opening an Alzheimer's study, one of the sites in the UK that I was running. And so waiting for this patient and a daughter to arrive, it was sort of an afternoon, and, due to arrive at, say, 3:00, looking at the clock, they've still not come. And then about 15, 20 minutes late, it was a lady who was a retired teacher, and she arrived, was brought by her daughter. Came into the waiting room, fluorescent lights, waiting room buzzing, so on and so forth. And I let them get settled for a minute, and I took them both into the consent room and sat down with them. And, and you can just see, like, people are looking a bit frazzled. Like, there was they both had that look of, like, looking stressed, rushed, and a bit just like over. And at that moment, I did something that felt so wrong at the time. I closed the consent folder. So as opposed to going straight into the consent, I just asked them how they were both feeling. Like, genuinely interested to say, hey guys, you look rushed, is everything okay? And then the floodgates opened. It seemingly had been like this really stressful day for both of them. And so instead of, like, jumping straight to the consent, I went and I was like, okay, let's grab a coffee and let's have a chat. So I made him a coffee, and we essentially just sat there and chatted about the day.
Yeah.
And they were telling me about, the grandkids and the lady's children. And we just spoke, right? And she never signed consent that day, but she came back about 2 days later, both of them, and then they were better for it. And then they signed the consent and went into the study. And then it really sort of, like, clicked with me at that moment that it's about those, I'm in the people service. It's about those relationships and connections. And what was interesting of that was that the lady actually ended up taking part in several trials because of the relationship that we had built. And even, like, 15 years on from today, Karen, the daughter, I'll still get the occasional text message. And I think that, like, it was a really interesting moment where it was those little moments of just, like, connecting with individuals and, patients that made the most impact for me, because I could have quite easily tried to, like, oh, well, let's do this consent. Okay. So, but that A, didn't obviously feel right. And B, I was more interested and more concerned about them overall, and they recognized that. And then it went from being a tactical relationship to a meaningful one. And that sort of, like, really made a massive difference in how I operate. And I think that there's this, like, interesting, that's really from the patient side. But then when we start to look at things like how, say, for instance, we connect and communicate with people when we're doing, like, from a site's perspective, and we take the same instance of consent, is that you ultimately want people that are going to do consent or any part of the process that are able to build that rapport and that relationship very quickly. Because, like, I started thinking about it and going, well, if you have consent A, who's a strong communicator, and 1 in every 2, like, convert from an interested to a consented patient, and then you have consenter B, who is 1 in 3, all of a sudden, like, consenter A needs 60 eligible pre-screens to, say, get 30 consents, whereas B needs 90. So that's 50% more top of the funnel activity from essentially not having a skill. Like, how do you connect and make people feel that they are, the most important, they are important, and they're, as part of as a more of a human perspective than it is just a number, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, and we see that all the time at sites. And as you were talking, I was just thinking about all the people. So, as you know, there's a lot of movement of people at clinical trial sites, and lots of people come in and start as a study coordinator.
Yeah.
And who teaches them these soft skills of how to build a relationship within, because sometimes you have seconds to build that relationship and that rapport with a potential candidate for a study. And are there things that can be done and tools that can be developed in order to help teach all these new people that come into the clinical trial industry who need to know these things? And for some people, that's just naturally who they are, but it's also a skill that can be learned.
So true, because and like when we think about, like, you know, we're looking at the CVs, we're looking at like the technical abilities of those individuals, right? Oh, how many studies have they done, and so on and so forth, and that gives you the ability to say they know how to comply with, you know, GCP, or they know how to deliver a particular study because they've worked on that or handled these type of patients. But actually, to your point, like, it goes totally against like the soft skills. Like, we don't say like how well, you know, do these people communicate. And I often think about, you almost have like this delivery skill profiles that have an element of technical but an element of soft skills, and you need both of those to have a well-functioning or a high-functioning researcher. And for me, is that trial delivery is ultimately human, and it's about how do you match the right skills to the right moments, because that, when you do it right, increases trust, speed, and success. But we too often like look at it just from that technical aspects and really forget about the individuals and those soft skills, which I think is critical.
Yeah, and it can actually have impact on studies as a whole on a large scale as well. So when I think about the relationships between sponsors and sites, and I can distinctly in my mind pick out those sponsors who have great relationships with their sites, and to the point where the site is almost already pre-made up in their mind, hey, if this sponsor is doing a study, then I want to be doing that study.
Exactly.
And it's because of that relationship that they've established in the past, or sometimes it's just very quickly with, you know, a small biotech. They're competing against big sponsors who may have been working in that therapeutic area for the last 10 years and have established relationships. And then the small biotech comes in and they have to establish a relationship. You know, sometimes they get one shot, you know, one phone call with the investigator, and this is going to help determine, first of all, if the site wants to do the study, and secondly, where the investigator prioritizes that project in their mind. And that has huge impact on recruitment and execution of the study.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's such an important. I think that sometimes we lose. We almost see like ones and zeros and numbers essentially, rather than going like, let's focus our effort on some of these relationships. Because I think ultimately it boils down to like building that trust. You've got to deliver at the end of the day, but the trust is the first sign. And there's two trains of thought here. Is that one is, you've got to show that someone can actually deliver to earn trust, or you've got to have trust from the start, and then, which I think is a much better way of, you've got to trust people, and if they do the job, then great, and if not, then conversations need to be had, but at least you start off on the right footing. But yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We'll be speaking about it again some more, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it's such an important piece.
Love it.
Yeah,
Cheers.
have a great day.
Thanks, sir. Bye.
Bye, my friend.